Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for May 13th. So today I thought I would take a look at what's going on with the Mike Flynn situation and Bill Barr. So the bottom line there is that both of them are going to end up paying a price for this. And, you know, it's not going to be easy, frankly, for either one of them to recover. So we're going to take a look at that. We've got a lot of topsy-turvy going on at the White House. We have, people being very concerned about the coronavirus literally within the White House now. And, people are saying they're distancing themselves. Then I guess Trump gets a hold of them and says that's making me look bad. And then they say they're not. And there's a whole lot of back and forth going on. And so, again, another kind of typical week in the White House insanity. So, let's take a look at Flynn and Barr and that connection and sort of the ramifications of it, right? Like, they did what they've done, and I don't know the legalities of it. Like, I don't know if that can be pulled back or what the judge can or cannot do, who sort of has any authority to sort of say, no, you can't drop those charges. Certainly that was something that was not, I don't know, but certainly wasn't on my radar, that would be one of the extreme measures that would take place with Flynn. I think, the idea is that he would get sentenced and then probably, Trump might or might not pardon him. But I don't know that anybody had on their radar the fact that Barr would just step in and say, yeah, no, we're just going to drop the charges. He's fine. Don't worry about him. He didn't do anything wrong except be deceptive and lie to the FBI and put national security at risk. Not a big deal. Come on now, folks. So let's take a look at Flynn and Barr. And I'm going to do it jointly. And then if one reading sort of leans really heavily to one person only, then we'll take a look at them individually. But I think the dynamic between the two of them and kind of the ramifications and implications of what they've done, let's take a look at it together and see what we see. All right, so I have a question, so come on down. Tell me about Flynn and Barr, Flynn and Barr, Flynn and Barr. Get those a little bit out of the way. So, so let's start here. Okay, so in many ways, what you have, and this actually applies to both men, there is a sense of imprisonment to or because of their loyalty. And in some way, Barr, because he has completely surrendered his autonomy, his authority, his respect for the law, he has placed himself in a position where when there is an order issued from the White House that you do something or make something go away, he doesn't have a whole lot of choice because, he's done it 100 times before, basically. And so he doesn't have a leg to stand on in terms of, well, I'm not going to do it this time, right? I mean, he's sort of trapped by the choices that he has made. And so this really was not any different. This was about make the situation go away. He is a loyal little soldier to me, and he is not going to be punished. Fix it. Now, and I really think that the reason that Trump wanted Flynn sort of, I want to say treated differently, right? Because the DOJ did not drop charges against Stone or Manafort or the others, okay? But they did about him. So why is that? I think part of it has to do with the fact that for some reason, either Flynn knows something or he has some information about a connection between Trump, the United States, bad actors, perhaps Russia. I'm not quite sure, but it feels as if there is something just a little bit more deep or well hidden, that there really is a concern about it coming out. And so the idea, and this is the thing, right? And again, I don't know a whole lot about Flynn and his history, but I do remember that he was one of the people that Obama really, really warned Trump about and said, you know, you need to be careful. And the way I understand it, if my memory serves me, is that at some point in his military career, he sort of did a bit of a 180 and he became a little bit more I guess dissatisfied with what he was seeing around him, and he really wanted things to be handled differently and that kind of thing. So he's a bit of a loose cannon. And maybe just that in and of itself is enough for Trump to think that he's my guy, right? But what I'm trying to say is there is not the sort of solid mental, emotional stability with Flynn. And so maybe in some ways that was even more of a concern. I'm not sure, but there's definitely a sense and a feeling that Flynn needed to be protected, perhaps at a level slightly different than others who have walked the line for Trump, okay? Now, this is the problem, okay? Both Barr and Flynn are going to find themselves on an island, kind of like of their own making, because they're both going to find themselves left out in the cold. They're both going to find themselves under investigation. Now, I don't know what new thing that they might be investigating under Flynn, but trust me, there is going to be another investigation. And again, whether that happens, I don't think it's going to happen until Trump leaves office, but he's not going to have a good time of it. Okay, it feels sort of like he's gonna like, and they both are. This card represents both of them. He is going to just charge ahead, and you know he has you know, been able to remove all of the burdens, and he's ready to charge forward and get on with his life and do what he wants and do it his way. Except what he's going to discover is that he really is being left out in the cold by all but the extreme right wing. Sort of middle of the road Republicans or more traditional Republicans are not going to stand by his side. You may see a little bit of that behavior because they don't want to rock Trump's boat because, you know, he's not exactly stable. But behind the scenes, he really is going to be sort of out in the cold. And because of that, a little bit down the road, you know, a year, 2 years, 3 years, he's going to find himself in a place and a space where he maybe will have to reevaluate the choices he made that got him to this spot, because he's not going to have people who can protect him when the next investigation comes along or the next crisis happens that he's in the center of. And you can bet he will be monitored going forward as an unregistered agent. I think that's what they're called. Barr, same kind of thing. He jumped ahead. He rushes ahead. he, he's sort of drunk on his own power because Trump has just said, do whatever you have to do and damn the consequences. And so that is exactly the behavior he has embraced. And he's finding more and more that it's a little bit of a burden for him. It's heavy. It's a hard load to carry. And he also is starting to recognize that, you know what, he really doesn't have the kind of support that he thinks he has, and he's certainly not going to have the support. He doesn't have the support within his own ranks that he likes to think he has. And going forward, he's really, really going to experience the reality of making the role of the U.S. Attorney General that partisan. There's going to be a significant price paid for that, because what his behavior done, this stunt that he pulled with Flynn, really, really puts the U.S. rule of law into absolute jeopardy, okay? Excuse me. So, as a result, he's not going to get away with this. It may look like it in the sort of immediate future, but understand that where he thinks he has support, where he thinks he's strong, that is going to be stripped from him. And there are not going to be people in the new Department of Justice or in the White House, or frankly in the Senate or the House of Representatives, who's actually interested in trying to save his butt, because the feeling across the board is he has stuck his own butt in a sling and it can, wave out there on its own. Nobody is going to rush to his defense. So, I don't know, maybe he ought to just continue to enjoy the pretend power and status and glory that he has convinced himself he has. And because the road ahead is really, really going to be a difficult one for him. So it sort of looks like, despite kind of how it looks right now or how it feels right now, ultimately, they're both going to pay a rather significant price in terms of their life, their livelihood, their reputation, the circles within they're sort of allowed to travel or are shunned from. And again, you might see things looking pretty rosy for the next little while, but it's not going to stay that way. And when it stops being that way, what they have lost is they have lost the support of powerful people in powerful places. So, right now, both of them, kind of in their own crazy way, are just trying to steer themselves into like calmer waters. And frankly, what they've done is they've damaged themselves. They've wounded themselves. I think that Flynn is probably going to start to get involved again in the Trump re-election, in the rallies, that kind of thing. But again, it's only going to be a positive thing for very few Republicans, very few of them, because at heart, a lot of Republicans are really sort of those constitutional, traditional, Republicans. Rule of law is important, and that is not what has happened here. And so they both, in their own way, have damaged themselves. And if either one of them, frankly, makes the wrong move, they're going to stab themselves in the head as soon as they try to get up and shift positions. Don't be surprised if Flynn isn't running around at some of those rallies as they get moving forward, because, again, Trump is in denial, and there's nothing wrong, and people should come to his rallies because, and Trump is going to be pulling in every marker and every favor he possibly can, because he's, again, slowly but surely starting to recognize that his reelection is an absolute jeopardy. I mean, 2/3 of America thinks he has been irresponsible and don't approve of the way he has handled this health crisis. And really, a significant number of Republicans, I believe, as this unfolds, are going to really start to see the absolute ineptitude of the administration. So both of them have put themselves in a place where, while they thought they were getting out of one problem and kind of moving into smoother waters, what they actually did was damage themselves to a point where they are self-inflicting the damage. This is also often a card of ill health, and I think that might represent itself or show itself in kind of two different ways. I think with Barr, you may actually see physical ill health, okay? You know, his blood pressure, I suspect, is high. I often see problems around his head. So I don't see his physical health as particularly robust. With Flynn, it's actually going to be, it feels like, his mental health. Sort of as if he has been, you know, he really has. He's been given a get out of jail free card. And because of that, he's going to become more cocky and more arrogant. And that may very well spin him into a place where he becomes a little bit sort of detached from reality, or not really seeing things very clearly, because he again feels like he is really powerful now, and it is an illusion. So bottom line is, these two have kind of made a little bit of a deal with the devil, if you will. Okay, they've sort of formed together, they came together to create an outcome that was going to be beneficial for Trump and Trump alone. And at this point, they are prepared to pick up the pieces, to let friends and allies desert them, because they feel that they have a very powerful friend in Trump. And they're deluding themselves, because Trump, here he is only concerned and only worried about his stuff. His spin, his ego, his reelection, his status, his government not failing. That's all he cares about. And anybody thinks that he cares about anything beyond that is really, really, really not grounded in reality. Okay, they're just not. And of course, he is going to become more self-centered and more erratic as things unfold going forward, because he's realizing, even apparently his own inner polls, like the polls that his re-election campaign is doing, show him underwater to Joe Biden everywhere, show that his approval rating is tanking, poll numbers are horrible. And so they're having a hard time actually spinning it for him. And of course, that makes him crazy. So they find some bogus way of softening the blow, or coming up with some other news that allows him to go back to that place of, I'm perfect, I'm fine, everything is great, I'm just going to keep talking happy talk. Because really, that's all anybody really wants to hear, because that's all Trump ever wants to hear. That is his point of reference. So he wants to hear happy talk from everybody around him, and then as a result, he only knows how to do happy talk to everybody else. But it's always focused on him, what he wants, what he's going to get, what he's going to gain. And so anybody who thinks otherwise is deluding themselves, right? They just are. Okay, so what you're going to see, going forward in terms of these guys and their relationship with Trump is that he now feels, I mean, he's always felt this way with Barr, but certainly with Flynn. As far as Trump is concerned, Flynn owes him everything because Trump arranged such a huge favor. And we all know that when Trump does somebody a favor, they are beholden to him with every breath they draw. And so there isn't going to be, I almost want to say any scaling back. There isn't going to be a tempered response between these two and how they interact, between Flynn's behavior and Trump's demands, okay? So that's going to prove very interesting. But again, I don't know that if you're going to, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of Flynn behind the scenes stuff. So we're not actually going to see a lot of it. But trust me, behind the scenes, Trump wants a blood oath from this guy, and nothing less is going to do. And Flynn, frankly, doesn't have a lot of options. Yeah. So, again, they are now dealing, both Barr and Flynn are now dealing with someone who is going to do everything possible to ensure that he doesn't have to walk away, that he ends up being the victor, that his message is the message he wants out there. And, and that's the thing, right? It's not necessarily a message that can restore whatever past glory he thought he had. It's not a message that is accurate or based in reality. All it is a message that Trump thinks serves Trump. And he believes that his message and his idea and his way of handling things will bring him to victory and prevent, having to walk away as a failure. So again, we've now reverted back to a place where it really, really is just all about Trump all the time. And these two people have put themselves in a place where they don't have any choice really but dance attendance on this guy. Excuse me. Okay. This is not this whole dropping the charges against Flynn. This is actually something that is really going to play to the benefit of not only Biden, but the Lincoln Project, but people who are, really going up against Trump, and they want to really, really show how corrupt he is. This trick that they pulled, this little stunt, is really, really going to backfire. But it is going to give those opposed to Trump, those who want him out of office, I think I almost want to say more ammunition than anybody realizes. And again, this is the overwhelming message I'm getting today. No one is telling Trump the truth. No one. Because he's crazy and he's erratic and he's out of control. Okay? And so they're going to do and say whatever it is that makes Trump happy. And he continues to be in this place of denial where he really, really does not at his core understand that he's put himself in a position that is really untenable, okay? Because no one can tell him, right? Nobody can tell him, buddy, you're killing yourself. You're literally committing political suicide. He doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't care. He's been told his whole life that he knows better than anybody else. He's smarter than anybody else. And God knows he's smarter than the doctors, and he's smarter than the generals, and he's just smarter than the scientists. He's smarter than everybody. And people let him get away with that crap. And so he's what, 73, 74? He's not going to change. And so the people around him have sort of, with complete resignation, just decided to humor the guy. They really have. And what's going on behind the scenes is that everybody is trying to get their own agenda served. Okay, they're trying to stuff their pockets as fast as they can. They're trying to push through judges. They're trying to do whatever it is they can do, because for the most part, whatever they say in public, however they behave, they clearly understand the writing is in the wall, on the wall, because again, they have some political experience, unlike the fool in the White House. So, that's really the energy and the dynamic that's going on right now, is that Trump is going to continue to believe that everything he does and says is perfect. They're going to continue to tell him that because they don't want to deal with it anymore. There's not a way to deal with it anymore. And behind the scenes, everybody, I would be amazed to find out how many aides and staffers and those kind of people are literally keeping copious notes, so that there is going to be like a glut of books that come out about, my experience in the Trump White House, because really, that's what they have left. That's what they have left. And so there you have it. I mean, literally, there you have it. So the bottom line here is this. Barr and Trump have made beds that are going to be incredibly uncomfortable for them to sleep in. The fall is going to happen much quicker than they realize. Ultimately, the rule of law is coming after them, and the judgment is going to be swift and harsh. But don't expect it to happen in the next 2 or 3 months. It's going to take a little bit of time because, as I said before, the Democrats don't have as much power as people would like to think they have. And so to a large degree, their hands are tied, but make no mistake, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to that is really, really going to allow them to start correcting things. And that includes the judges, okay? Don't everybody panic about the judges, okay? The judges are going to be, that situation is going to be taken care of, because you have judges that were crammed into seats that were completely unqualified to do their job, and who lied their way through the confirmation process. Both of those things are going to get them thrown off of the bench, and I think in some cases perhaps even disbarred. Don't panic about the judges. They're not going to get away with what they have done. It's not going to be allowed to sit, but you just have to be patient for a little while longer. There is going to be a balance to come. There are plans and strategies in place. And while not everything is going to revert back to normal, frankly, do you really want it to? Like, really? Wouldn't you rather prefer that, sort of just like your medical system and everything that's going on with the pandemic, wouldn't you rather that you have a new normal in Washington, something that has learned and has grown wiser by the past experiences? I'm thinking you probably do. All right. So that's my take on Flynn and Barr. Until next time, take care, be well, and before I forget, if you're looking for a private reading, in the box below is an email address. If you send me off an email, I will respond to you personally and give you the details. Again, take care, be well, and we'll see you really soon. Bye-bye.